Hey guys, Dabadoo here with another Grim Dawn build video. So this build is a Conjurer that uses the Wildblood set. I think it's kind of an underrated set in Grim Dawn. It's pretty powerful. Devouring Swarms and Grasping Vines, in my opinion, are some of the most powerful skills that you can use in the game in terms of skills that are used actively that do damage. So that's awesome. And what's great about this character is you don't need like specific items to make it work. It's a great starter character, and you don't need really any of the expansions to make it work as well. You know, it doesn't use any of the classes from the expansions. And it really just relies upon the skills, the cultist skills and shaman skills that it uses, and then it ties very powerful devotions to those that are all synergistic together. And it also teaches you how to theory craft in Grim Dawn, because a trick to building a powerful character in Grim Dawn is using skills from your skill tree that proc devotions, and they do in a synergistic manner. So one of the tricks to making a powerful character in Grim Dawn is to utilize skills that are area effect damage over time skills, such as Devouring Swarm or Grasping Vines. And every single time they tick, or most of the time when they tick, depending on the effect, they have a chance to proc a devotion that's attached to it. And if you have a devotion with 0 cooldown that doesn't have a recharge, so for example, Twin Fangs has a 0.6 second recharge, while Rend does not. And so Rend is attached to my Devouring Swarm, and the Devouring Swarm is an area of effect damage over time skill that pierces enemies. So let's say there's a crowd of enemies here and I cast Devouring Swarm. There's a very good chance Ren's going to proc, and Ren itself happens to be an area of effect devotion as well. And so you might get like multiple Ren procs out of a single cast of Devouring Swarm, which is pretty cool. And after it procs, because Devouring Swarm is still ticking on the enemy, there's still a chance it's going to proc again after it already procced. So it's really great. Also, this is very powerful as well, as that's on Grasping Vines. Grasping Vines, I think, may be the best skill for proccing in the game. I could be wrong about that, but based off of my testing, that seems to be the case. So you have a really, really powerful devotion with 0 cooldown tied to potentially the most powerful skill in the game to proc devotions. So that's pretty nice. And you know, you got your Wendigo totem. You really just put that down to like set up shop and tank shit. That's really the reason for it. You know, I have a modification to it that makes it do a little bit more damage. That's fine. Sigil of Consumption. You're going to see sigils all over the place in the gameplay footage. That's because I'll be casting them, and they're also proccing off of my Signets of the Damned. I think this ring is incredibly powerful, and I want to fit in this build. You know, it's thematic, and it's a great thing to have in this build. So checks all the right boxes. Now there are a couple challenges for this character in terms of building the character for the end game, and that was essentially life leech resistance and freeze and stun resistance as well. So I don't have any freeze resistance on this character. I couldn't fit it in efficiently and keep the power of this character, so I had to forgo that. If you'll notice in the gameplay footage that I happen to be using a Hoarfrost ointment, and I also happen to be using a Vilescar ointment to overcap my life leech resistance, because that's very important. Now, speaking of life leech resistance, let's talk about Valguur's raiments. I don't actually want to wear this set. I'd rather wear a Fiendscale jacket and you know, do some other cool stuff. By the way, the Fiendscale jacket is super strong. Feel free to try it out. But anyways, the reason why I'm using Valguur's raiments is to get that giant life leech resistance bonus for the 3 set bonus there. I like to fit these guys in here, but unfortunately, I needed to get sun resistance. So I have enough life leech resistance to be decent. But I still need stun resistance on this character, because when you're fighting the really nasty stuff, life leech resistance, stun resistance, freeze resistance, that's all very important, especially when you're doing the Crucible. So I have these boots on instead. These boots are actually fine. They're good. There's good things about them, but mainly it's really just, they're strong boots, and they have stun duration reduction. That's the reason for them. And this thing has stun duration reduction as well. This thing also gives you kind of a hefty chunk of defense, which is nice for this character because you're going to need that. Now, you may say, oh wow, this character has really low offense and defense. Well, that all kind of scales up. So for example, I got my Bloody Pox, right? So one of the things about Bloody Pox is, it reduces their offense ability by a hefty amount, right? Like, 285. So, if you think about it, my defense without like any additional procs or buffs or whatever, that's almost 3,000. I guess that would be 3,000 defense ability. That's kind of decent, right? For someone who's not really, for a character that's not really defensive based beyond a bunch of life leech resistance. So like, I'm not going up here and getting healing rain and, a lot of the constellations that are known for like super tanky builds. No block in this character. So here's the thing. You normally need a gimmick of some kind to tank the scary stuff in this game. Because, if you're just a regular old mage and you don't have a shield and all that, like, stuff is going to mess you up in the Crucible unless you're running all around. But of course, crowd control barely works on the endgame bosses. And they're really, really fast. So you got to have a character that can tank. And how this character tanks is not with a shield, not with like skills that give you like invulnerability for a time window. It's just with a bunch of freaking life leech and life regen. And so that's the way to do it. And it works out. Another thing that I don't like about this character is that you have to, you don't have a way to cure yourself of debuffs. If you have debuffs on you, you basically have to jump away. Jump away from the monster. So if you see like over here, like negative 30%, all resistances or whatever, that's fine. You're overcapped on all your resistances, which is very, very important. As you notice, I really tried to do a good job of overcapping my resistance on this character because I don't have a way to remove debuffs. And so just assume that any challenging fight, you're going to have a debuff on you that's going to, minus all your resistances by 30. And so I'm already kind of taking that into account. And that's why this character just doesn't like fold like a piece of paper, in the high waves of the Crucible. It's mainly because I'm overcapping all my resistances. Let's see. If there's anything else I should talk about? This is pretty good. It gives you +1 to all occultist skills. It's, whenever monsters hit you, it procs this, so that's good. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of the character. I don't think it's necessary to go over all the different skills. I think I talked about what was interesting about it. I really do like this constellation. It's really strong, and it solves a lot of energy problems as well. So, if you're constantly starved for mana or energy, this constellation is great for that. Yeah, as you'll notice, like I'm not really focusing on the constellations on the edges that are the big ones, mainly because these specific constellations are very strong for this character, even though they're not all like edge constellations. I do have this one though. But yeah, basically this is a good character to start out with. You don't need any specific items. It's strong out of the gate with skills like Curse of Frailty, which is great for proccing because the AoE of Curse of Frailty is huge, and it's essentially an AoE, not a damage over time, but it's an AoE that ticks. So it has a chance to, if it doesn't proc Wendigo's Mark right away on an enemy, and remember you're probably getting like 10 enemies in one cast of it, the third time it procs, it might get Wendigo's Mark on that enemy as well. So it's pretty cool. Bloody Pox, I have so many plus points to Bloody Pox. I think I just have 1 point in here. I did dump all of my extra points into wasting though, because I really do like that extra defense. And it's defense in that it reduces the monster's offense. And yeah, it's pretty strong. Just it's kind of a fire and forget skill, and that's kind of what this build focuses on. It focuses on skills that you throw out there, and they keep on doing damage over time. You just fire and forget it, and while you're forgetting it, while it's doing damage over time, it's proccing all of your devotions constantly. Yeah, I really like it. And guys, I hope you enjoy the gameplay footage and music. All right, take care. Bye.
Greetings, and welcome to... Oh, is that so?